Good morning. I am so glad to come on here and be able to talk to you guys this morning. As you can see, I am not at my home. I am actually taking a little bit of a work retreat and just taking kind of a weekend away to pray, to be with God, to just kind of refocus, replan my work stuff. I try to do this every year. I got to do this in 2020 for the first time, and it was such an amazing time to be able to focus because as moms, we have a lot of noise and a lot of distraction and a lot of all these wonderful little blessings, but a lot of things going on, and it can be really hard to I don't know, just get a minute to think and to plan ahead. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. It's just getting away. And I thought, while I don't have any kids around me, that it might be a good time to go live because there's less chance of a surprise. But you never know. You never know. Life happens. So we're going to go live today, and we're going to be talking about curriculum. I just thought it would be fun to come in here and answer you guys' top curriculum questions that I get all the time here in the comments. And I always answer the comments. But I figured many other people might actually be interested in these answers and maybe haven't seen the comment section. So we're going to tackle these. But as you guys jump on live, chat in the comments, tell me hi, let me know what questions you guys have because I want to make sure I answer your questions as well. So let's get started. The first question that I get a lot, this was one, I'm thinking of starting morning menus and I love your ideas. Will you continue to use your menus this upcoming school year? Yes. We are going to be using morning menus this school year. We started that last fall. I was a little nervous because, to be honest, if you guys aren't familiar, morning menus, I wish I had one here to show you, but morning menus is actually a menu that has different items that we go through every single day. We do some scripture memory work. We have a feelings chart in there. We pray for different countries in there. And it's just something that kind of gives us a visual and an easy way to mark our morning basket time. I found before that, our morning basket time could be anywhere from 5 minutes to 50 minutes sometimes. And my kids never knew what it was going to be like. And I didn't know what it was going to be like. And so having this menu where we just start at the beginning and we flip the pages to the end and work through that process helped us to stay consistent. It helped us to stay on focus. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. My fear is that needing to change out the papers once a month or so would end up being something I would start out doing in the school year with the best intentions and then would end up totally falling by the wayside, but it didn't. It actually didn't. I was able to keep up with it all year long. And I think part of that is because I did not change out the whole menu every single month. I simply had certain things like Bible memory work. Once the kids fully memorized it, then I would switch it out. So sometimes that was once a month. Sometimes that was, I leave it in for a minimum of a month. So it was either once a month. Sometimes it was once a quarter, depending on how long the passage was. And there were other things that just stayed in there all year long. So it just made it really doable. So I'm really, really excited to keep doing that this next year. Okay, so I get a lot of questions about grammar, a lot of questions about grammar. So I thought I would tackle a few of these. Just watched your Grammar Galaxy review. Have you switched over from doing that, and do you use it with Fix to Grammar? So this is on one of my Fix to Grammar videos. And so really with grammar, so I have a little bit of a different philosophy on this. I have posted articles in the past, but I can post one after this video as well about sort of the benefits of teaching your children different skills at different times instead of introducing everything at one time. So our kids oftentimes are thrown in all at once to learn how to read. Then they're learned how to spell, how to write, and grammar all at the same time. And that can be very overwhelming to a child. And those require different reasoning skills, different parts of the brain to engage. And so there is some research out there and some wisdom out there to kind of scaffolding and kind of doing it just incrementally. And so that's kind of what we do in our home. So what I actually do when you hear me talking about two different curriculums, we use Grammar Galaxy for my kiddos when they are a little bit younger. So initially, I don't use any grammar. for a little while. And then when I'm ready to start introducing grammar, I like to use Grammar Galaxy. It's just very gentle approach. It's story-based. So my kids really, really love that they get to listen to the stories and learn from the stories. It has very little writing at the beginning in the earlier levels. So if they're not as good at spelling or writing, they don't have to worry about that. And so it just has worked really, really well for us in those earlier years. Then for 2 of my 3 older kids, I have then made the switch over to Fix-It Grammar. So my son uses Fix-It Grammar right now. He's going into his 3rd year using it. And then my daughter is going into her 1st year using Fix-It Grammar, but she's done Grammar Galaxy up till now. And then my oldest son is not doing that. He has done Grammar Galaxy and he's done really, really well with it. But he obviously, he's the one that has a lot of trouble with auditory processing and the dyslexia. And so at some point, I just kind of set it off to the side and was like, he listens to the Grammar Galaxy stories. So he's still, because they have audiobooks of the stories. And so he'll listen to those. So he's still getting some introduction to concepts. But right now, honestly, the focus is just on reading because that skill is hard enough for him. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. So when you see me talking about 2 different curriculums, it's not necessarily always that I've made this giant switch. Sometimes it's just a matter of we start with one and then we move to another. Or for my daughter, she's going to be starting Grammar Galaxy this year, and with my 4th child, and she's going to be starting Grammar Galaxy this year, and she might just stay with it because it's kind of more her approach than Fix-It Grammar, but who knows? We'll just wait and see. I very much of the opinion that we tailor the curriculum to the child and to what they specifically need. And I want to give them what works best with the way they learn. And that means that we do different things for different kids. And that's totally okay. So that's the Grammar Galaxy question. There's another grammar one I wanted to answer real fast. Another one I get is, when do you start Fix-It Grammar? I get this question all the time. So Fix-It Grammar, I believe on their website, recommends 3rd grade is when they recommend it. Now, they have done revisions to it, and I have done an entire video about all the different revisions and what they've changed, what's different, what's the same. And with those revisions, it has made it a little bit more easy to digest for younger students. So if you have an advanced 2nd grader, then you might want to go ahead and look into it. In the past, what I had heard and what I had found is that the first book, before the changes, that the first book of Fix-It Grammar was pretty simple. Like, I mean, you could do it, and it eased into it really gently. And then the 2nd book, Robin Hood, was like deep dive, like overwhelming. And so that's what I'd heard from multiple people. And I think that's why they went in and they did the revision. So they now have the Nose Tree, which is the first book. And then they go into Town and Country Mouse. And then they go into Robin Hood. And so I think by having that progression and adding an extra book in there, it makes it a much more seamless transition. So I would be a lot less hesitant to start a 3rd grader on it now. Most of my kids did not start till 4th or 5th grade. And that was, I guess, just with the old style, that was just kind of my judgment call, that I didn't want it to get like quickly overwhelming. But now that they made those new changes, I think you could easily start 3rd, 4th grade. Always start at the beginning. That's their recommendation. Always start at book 1. It's really important because those skills build on each other. And if your child goes through it faster, that's fine. Then they can just move through multiple books in a year. All right. Make sure to leave a comment, guys. Let me know you're here. And if you have any questions, I want to be able to answer those here live. All right. The next one. I know you've used All About Reading for reading, which they do too. Did you consider All About Spelling? And if so, why did you choose Evan Moore over All About Spelling? So if you guys know, for my 2 girls, I'm going to be using Evan Moore Spelling this year. Yes, we have used All About Spelling, and I love All About Spelling. Like, it's a fantastic curriculum, and it is incredibly thorough, and it is, I don't know, it's just very efficient. Like, you won't need anything else. If you have All About Spelling, you're good to go. But All About Spelling is a little more teacher intensive, and it can be a lot sometimes. And it's not really too much. If I'm just being completely honest and real with you guys, it's not too much for my daughter. She could handle it, my oldest daughter. but I was just a little intimidated by the amount of work that we are going to be taking on in the fall, because my boys are going to be in 7th grade. I have 2 boys that'll be in 7th grade. I have a 6th grader. I have a 4th grader, and then I will have a kindergartner and a junior kindergartner, preschool age. So with that, that's a lot. Okay, I can see you guys now. Hi. That's a lot. And we're doing a lot more intense curriculum because they're getting closer to high school and we're starting Sunlight. And I just honestly, it's not that I think that the Evan Moore is better than All About Spelling. Personally, I think Evan Moore is going to be great. I wouldn't have chosen it if I thought it was going to be subpar, but it's not nearly as thorough as All About Spelling, period. But truthfully, I was scared of adding on something else. And my daughter is very much a self-starter. She loves to do things on her own. And that's what Evan Moore was. So that's kind of why we decided to go that route, is because I was scared that if I did All About Spelling, we would never get to spelling because I just wouldn't find time for it. So open, raw, and honest here. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see. Let's look at the questions. Have you used Phonetic Zoo? If so, how did you organize and implement it? I ordered it for my 6th grader. Yes, we are using Phonetic Zoo with one of my sons. And we've got a little MP3 player that I ordered for him. It's like $20. I'll link it here afterwards. But it is an amazing MP3 player. And I just put all of the tracks onto that MP3 player. And that is just for school. I don't want them to put anything else on there. And so he goes in, he has in his little box, he'll have the little cards. I did not do the poster. Phonetic Zoo, sorry, for those who don't know what Phonetic Zoo is, that's done by IEW, and it is a spelling program. I know it sounds confusing because Phonetic Zoo makes you think maybe phonics, but it's teaching spelling through phonics rules and things. And so it's really a neat program. It is very much a self-starter program. For sure. But they do recommend that before you go to Phonetic Zoo, that your child has completed All About Spelling levels 1, 2, and 3, or the equivalent. So it's not necessarily for your beginning speller. Like, it is more to start in the older grades. So I think Nancy's right on point with starting with a 6th grader. But with that, how do I organize it? Like I said, I just have the cards in a box that he can review the different facts. He has a notebook. He goes through, he listens to the track. It tells him what to spell. He writes that down on his piece of paper. Then after he's written it all down, he goes through and he checks his own work, and they tell them, okay, you're spelling this word. This is how you spell it. And then anything he gets wrong, he rewrites 3 times. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that is what we're doing. Good morning. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that they're helpful. Guys, you have no idea how many times I'm like, I don't even know if this is helping. So it's always a blessing when I hear that the videos can be helpful. We love Let's try that again. We love All About Reading and All About Spelling, but All About Spelling is very teacher intensive. Yes. And we had to create more of a balance. Absolutely. For sure. And that's the thing, is I've totally done All About Spelling before, but whew, it's a lot. It's a lot. I agree with you. All About Spelling is doable, but overwhelming at moments. Yes, absolutely. Hi from England. Hi. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. Hello from Michigan, from Ohio, from Texas. Oh, so cool to see all of you guys on here. Are there any curricula, resources, unit studies that you would recommend for logic, critical thinking, and also a resource for teaching our children how to handle their money? Okay, so this is a very good question, and I'm going to try my best to think of what the name of the curriculum is. I have not made any specific videos on this yet because I'm planning on doing logic and reasoning next year. And the reason for that is that if you do logic in most states, I can't speak for every state, but in most states, if you do logic and critical thinking in 8th grade, you can oftentimes count it as a high school credit, even though they're not in high school yet. At least in our state, we're able in 8th grade, there are certain classes that they can take as long as they meet the criteria that will actually count towards their high school transcript. So I thought about doing logic this year. We were going to use the Fallacy Detectives. It has a dog on the cover. It's green. I'm 90% sure that's what it's called. Fallacy Detectives. It's what my mom used. to homeschool with us, and it's a really, really well done book. And there is a second book to it, and I cannot remember what that one's called, but definitely go check that out. But if you are thinking about it, maybe check out your state laws, because like I said, I decided to move it to the 8th grade year so that we can count it for high school. Just two birds, one stone. Teaching your kids how to handle money. I'm going to do some research on that one for you, because I've actually been looking into a few things and I have not found exactly what I want. I know that there are lots of kids curriculums out there for it, but I haven't quite found what I like yet. So I'm going to hold off on that, but I will do a video on that in the future. Thank you, Katie. Love the idea of putting the cards in a box instead of on a board. Hi from Texas. I'm also super interested in logic curriculum. Yes, logic I think is so important, and it's such a great thing to teach your kids, something that's definitely needed. I know I talked about this in the podcast, podcast video that I did recently on the top 10 podcasts for kids. But if you guys are teaching your kids logic, be sure to have them listen to the podcast Smash Boom Best. That podcast, it's a debate podcast. And so they'll have two different people come on and debate different sides, but instead of like really heavy topics, it's things that kids are interested in. So it's like Lego versus Minecraft, or unicorns versus horses, or I don't remember what it was, but things like that. Okay. So funny things that don't really matter. There's no clear winner, but they debate and they go through all of this. And within that podcast, they actually talk about different logic fallacies, and they talk about the best way to convince people. So anyways, I don't know. I hope that is helpful. Oh, cool. The fallacy detectives in my Amazon basket. Thank you from Ireland. Wow. We've got people from all over today. That is awesome. Yes. Smash Boom Best. Definitely check out that podcast. Totally free. I will say, listen to it with your kids. There are a few episodes I don't let my kids listen to personally. It's a secular resource. So just be aware that, make sure the topic is something you're okay with. All right, let's see. This is a good one. Let's see. You mentioned that your kids had finished up their geography. What do you guys use for geography? So I get this question a lot, and I have not done a video on it because the curriculum we use is no longer in print. However, the concept is something that anybody could do, which is why I want to tackle it here. We use a program called Simply Stated, and I actually know the creator of the program. And while it is out of print, you actually can get it. I'll drop all the information down after the live is over, but you can actually get the book for, I think it's only like $5 plus shipping from the creator. She just has extra printed copies, and you can just shoot her an email and tell her that Katie at Life Mundane sent you, and she'll totally mail you out one. But it's called Simply Stated, and all it really is, guys, is a book list. It's a book list by state. So we do U.S. geography is what we're working on right now. And with that, we go through one state every 2 weeks. So we'll take an entire 2 weeks. We'll do one state. We do not do it every day. Maybe 2-3 days a week. We'll sit down. We'll read a few of the books. The book lists are divided into picture books, chapter books, fiction, nonfiction, that kind of thing. Some of them are about the state. Some of them are just set in that state. Like, so if it's a fiction book, it might just be set in the state of Oklahoma. But there's a lot your kids can learn from that. So we read different picture books about the state. We watch YouTube videos about the state. We love Homeschool Pop has YouTube videos for all 50 states. So that's a really fun thing to watch with your kids. And then we also like the National Geographic Kids videos for geography. We'll look up different fun facts about the state. My kids love to look up the obscure laws, those funny laws where it's like illegal to eat ice cream on the sidewalk on Sundays or whatever, those kind of silly ones that are still on the books. So sometimes we'll look up those. But we just keep it really low key. And then as I'm reading to the kids, as they're watching these YouTube videos, as we're talking about these states, then they just have a sketchbook and they just write notes or draw things that they learned. And then at our co-op, we do a science co-op with one other family. We do our science experiments for Apologia, but then we also do geography, and the kids will stand up and they'll tell a couple of facts about the state that we learned. So just really low key. So all that to say, if you want that book, I can put the information for the book list there, but you can also just Google picture books for Connecticut and you'll get lists. They're on Pinterest. They're all over. it's not real complicated, but just the idea of learning through literature, keeping it super low key. We find it on the map. They fill it in. They have like a picture of US and they fill it in. And then, yeah. So hopefully that helps to answer that question. Let's see. Let's go back to the questions. I know you've talked about how important it is for your kids to get into God's word on their own. How do you do that with older kids who have only participated in family Bible time, grades 7 and 8? That is a great question. So yes, I definitely recommend getting kids in God's word, period, whether that's in family Bible study or individually. I definitely recommend that. So I think, first of all, just awesome job for having that family Bible time, even if they haven't gotten into that time themselves. I just kudos to you for actually doing that as a family, because getting in God's word is the most important thing. So for grade 7 and 8, okay, I would recommend, maybe if they're new to it, looking into Not Consume Ministries has a study that's actually called Quiet Time or Time with the Lord or something about time. I want to say it's Quiet Time. Okay. You guys are going to learn really fast that the reason I don't do a lot of lives is because I can never remember the names of things and I have to look them up. Quiet Time by Not Consume Ministries. So what it is it's a Bible study. You can get it. I would get it as a digital copy if you have multiple kids, because if you do that, then you will be able to print off multiple copies. So you buy it once, you print it off. But it's a Bible study that teaches your kids how to do Bible study. So, and they have it for older kids and they have it for younger kids. So make sure you get the right one. But it's definitely a great resource that will really help your kids understand the importance of God's word and kind of how to get started. And I really recommend that one. But I think in general, also, if your child is like, you're like, I don't know if I want to do a Bible study, I think just having them pick a book of the Bible to start with, have them read it, and then just have them write down. I always have my kids, we always talking about several questions of like, what did this passage teach you about God? Like, that's always the thing, right? We don't read the Bible to learn. Like, everybody wants to talk about practical application, and practical application is important, but it's not the most important, right? It's learning about God. And so we talk about, what does this passage teach us about God? What does this passage teach us about ourselves and what we're supposed to do in relation to God, right? And then what is this passage? What's the third question? What is this passage teach me about how I should treat others, right? So we go through those 3 questions. So you could also just use a notebook and have them read a passage and then write those down. And that would work too. Let's see more questions. How do you manage 2 or more kids who are not independent learners, but are on very different levels? I'm thinking of individual subjects like math. Oh, goodness, girl. Goodness. Okay. So I very much have this. When I first started homeschooling, it drove me nuts because everybody was like, well, you work with the older kids while the younger kids are playing, or the older kids are independent. They can go off and do their thing, and then you can focus on the younger kids. And I am now at that stage. Like, I can now do that. But when I started homeschooling, I had 4 kids. My kids are super close in age. Like, super close. They're getting ready to all have birthdays. So they'll be 13, 12, 11, and 10 years old. There's 12 months and like 2 weeks between most of them, 12 months and 2 days between the girls. And then there's a big gap, and I have a 5 and a 4-year-old. So first of all, I had kids really close together. So they were all little kids. I didn't have any older kids. And then I have kids with special needs. So because of that, there was a lot less that they could do independently. And so I really think with this, our school days are longer than most people's days, right? A lot of people will tell you, oh, you can be done by noon and da-da-da. And if I could work with just like one kid, yes, we could totally do that. But I tend to work one-on-one with my kids when they're not independent learners yet, and when they're in different levels and you can't work on it together. Because, right, if they're at the same level, you can do subjects together. But when they're not, my school days are just a little bit longer, and I work one-on-one with them. I will sometimes give the other one a different task. So I don't know what age we're talking about, but Extra Math is a free website. They also have an app that just drills math facts. It's kind of boring, but it works. It really does. And so I would have one of my kids work on that while I worked with the other one on math. Or I'm not objected to just like, hey, go play. I'm going to work with your sister on math. And then when the timer goes off, we'll switch, So I think that they don't have to be working 100% of the time all the time, if that makes sense. So my school days are longer because I do like timeout. I'm working with this person. Now I'm working with that person. So hopefully that helps to some extent. Also, don't forget, they don't have to work on the same subject at the same time. So you could work with math with one kid and the other one could do handwriting or something else, or even dry erase books from Usborne. They have some really great ones. It doesn't have to be formal curriculum. It could just be worksheets or something. All right. Yes, everyone's joining in. Welcome, welcome. Are there any Christian kid documentary style DVDs you recommend to do with Bible, archaeology, dinosaur creation, apologetics, etc.? Oh, that's a good question. I am not as familiar. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Can't think of one specifically designed for kids. However, when you say creation and dinosaurs, I think Answers in Genesis. So I'm wondering if Answers in Genesis might actually have something along those lines. So maybe check out their website, because I know they have a lot of resources about creation and dinosaurs. And I know they have a lot of kids' picture books on it. I feel like maybe they have videos, but I'm not 100% sure. But I will do some research into that, Leah, because that would be really interesting to know. I'm interested for that for myself as well. See, I just got on the video. What Bible studies do you do for little kids that don't show images of God? Yes, it's hard. Okay, so Bible studies. So honestly, we read the Bible with my little ones. We always do that and just read straight out of scripture. That's always a surefire way to have no images. But for little kids, how old are we talking, Kayla? Can you give me an idea of ages here? Because littles can be a lot. There is a book called, see, this is the problem. With my brain. So there is some little books by Corrine McKenzie. Corrine McKenzie is a very solid author, theologically wise, and that she never uses images of Jesus. So check out her, just Google Corrine McKenzie, and it's with a C. Okay. Corrine McKenzie. And she has some amazing resources for little ones that will help you kind of work through some of that. And then I also like if you're talking about a little bit older kids, then Not Consume Ministries, her studies are amazing as well. But hopefully that helps. But start with Corrine McKenzie, because she is a very safe one to check out for that. You may have also covered that. Okay, let's see. Hello, how do you manage toddlers? I have 4 children, 8 and 5 years old, both in school, and a 9-old and an 8-month-old. How do I manage the toddler? Yes, people always say, how do I manage the babies? Or like, how am I going to homeschool with a baby? And I'm like, babies are the least of your problems. Babies, you just carry the baby around with you. It's not a big deal. It's always the toddlers. So I have several videos on this that I can link after the live. There's a lot of things you can do. I try to include them as much as possible. Even if it's not in the actual curriculum, just giving them some Play-Doh at the table can really help just kind of keep them occupied while the other kids are working. I do allow TV. I know, shocker. Just screen time. Can you believe I just said that? But I do allow screen time. My toddlers will do a leapfrog video, or there's lots of different learning ones. They'll do a learning video while I work on reading with my older kids, because I'm tired, guys. And they learn a lot. Leapfrog is amazing. My kids have learned their entire alphabet from Leapfrog, all of them from the oldest to the youngest. So, but if you're objected to screen time, I totally respect that. And I understand that. And I don't do screen time the whole day, just to clarify. We have specific times. I do have a preschool toddler basket that I do with my kids. It's just a basket of like books and toys and whatever that I will sit down and I will do 10 minutes of that with them before I start working with the older kids. And that really helps. Kind of giving them some time ahead of time really helps them to be more chill while I'm working with the other kids. And I will say too, I can use that basket when I see they're getting antsy. I can pull that basket out and be like, okay, let's do 10 more minutes of work together. And that kind of helps. Having toys that are just for school time that they don't have access to outside of school time is another good idea. Let's see. Love Answers in Genesis. 5 and 7-year-old. Okay, 5 and 7-year-olds. Definitely check out Not Consumed. That's a good one. It might be a little young for 5. Let me do some more research, Kayla. I'm going to do some more research for you, and I'm going to come back and do a video on this because that is a really good question, because I get that all the time about little kids and a 3-year-old. Yeah, the 3-year-old, definitely Corinne McKenzie for sure. But yeah, let me do more research on that. All right, just interested. I cannot even talk. Just interested how everyone manages housework, cooking, cleaning, errands, etc., and homeschooling. Whew. Well, first of all, nobody does all of it perfectly, so just sit back and know you are not alone. Okay, so how do I manage housework? Everybody helps. It's not just me. I don't do all the cooking. I don't do all the cleaning. I don't do all the errands. And I don't even do all the homeschooling. So homeschooling, I pick and choose what I want to be teacher intensive. I do teacher intensive reading because reading is really important, and because my kids struggle in reading. I wish I could outsource reading, but I can't. But we do use teaching textbooks for math, and that takes some of the homeschooling off of me. That's 3rd grade and up. So I do teach math before then, but 3rd grade and up. So that helps. So you can do things like that by picking and choosing your homeschooling curriculum and not picking everything to be teacher intensive. As far as errands, I try to set 1 day a week to do that. And if it's not done, like if something comes up and I have to do something outside of that 1 day, then I try to do it after school hours. But really housework and cooking and cleaning, that's just everybody jumps in. Yeah. Wendy just said, that's right. Many hands make light work. 100%. Just jumping in, having them help. My daughter, actually, she is 10, getting ready to turn 11. Sorry, like I said, everybody's getting ready to have birthdays. She's 10, getting ready to turn 11, and she actually cooks all the lunches. I don't cook any lunches anymore, and that's her choice. I've given her options that I'm happy to take a day, and she's like, nope, I got this. So it doesn't have to be fancy. That's the other thing, is simplify your standards when it comes to housework and cleaning as well. It helps a lot. Lower the bar. Man, talk about great advice first thing in the morning. Just lower the bar. Yes, yay for leapfrog. God bless all you mamas with small children. I have a 6th grade daughter. I'm going to homeschool for the first time this year. Yay, exciting. That is going to be amazing, I'm sure. And yes, it is definitely its own interesting challenge, but it's also a blessing. You recommended good pictures, bad pictures, and I recently purchased it for my 10-year-old. It is so good and so needed. So thank you. Oh, I'm so glad. Yes, good pictures, bad pictures is a great resource talking to your kids. They have one for junior version, which is for 3 to 7, I want to say, 3 to 6 years old. And then they have good pictures, bad pictures for older kids, talking to your kids about the dangers of different pictures they might see on the interweb. And it handles it in a really age-appropriate way. Let's see. Yes, many hands make light work. Housework is a team effort, 100%. 100%. Because when we all do it, yes, absolutely. Are you at the puberty health stage? I'm looking for the best curriculum for that. Yes. 100%. There are voices changing and hair growing, and yeah, it's emotions, crying, lots of tears, lots and lots of tears. So we are 100% at that stage, that beautiful, wonderful stage. I like the book. Oh man, this is stretching my memory. I've done a video on it, and I will link it after the words, but I want to say it's growing up God's way. I want to say it's growing up God's way. I can picture the cover in my head. But I will link it down below as well after this. Yes, Growing God's Way. Thank you, Ashley. I was like, they have one for girls, one for boys. I really, really like these books because it's not a curriculum. It's just a book. But it's written in such that you can totally just read it straight to your kids, or you can read it yourself and then present it to your kids. But what I like about it is it's not just a talk book. It does cover that, but it talks about puberty and health. And while it goes way more in depth to whichever gender it's talking about, a boy or girl, it also shares a little bit of information about what the opposite sex is going through during that puberty health stage, which was very critical and very, 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 very helpful in with talking with my kids, because they have siblings. right? And the boys needed to know why their sisters were crying all the time, or while they're cramping sometimes, and things like that. And it was important for the girls to know why the boys' voices are starting to squeak and change, and to not make fun of them for it. So I really like the fact that it gave them just a little bit of information that way. It's very good. As far as health, I do know Apologia has a health curriculum, and I'm definitely planning on doing that with my kids, but I do believe it is more designed for 8th to 9th grade. So we were going to hold off a year on that. Is that a book I can get on Amazon? The Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. Yes, it is. You can get it on Amazon, 100%. Let's see. Plan, Prep, Pray. I'm going to use that line with my kids. Love it. Yes, definitely use that. The Talk series by Luke and Trisha Gilkerson, I don't know how to say that, is a great peer for puberty stage. Yes, I've heard great things about that. What age do you start? I have almost a 10 and 8-year-old. Should I do it together or only the older ones? I start young. Guys. The average age, I talked to my doctor about this, the average age for a girl to start puberty at this age is 8 to 12 or 7 to 11. I can't remember, but it is younger. It is way younger than when we started. And so I recommend starting at like 7, 8 years old. And I really, really think that it's a good thing. I don't want them to be surprised, right? I want them to be prepared. And that book really, really still helps their kids understand it, but it's not too much. And you can do certain parts. Like if you wanted to do the puberty stuff, but not do the talk stuff, I went ahead and did it all. But if you don't want to, you can totally pick and choose what you want to do. Let's see why their sisters were crying all the time. It's true. It's important. Goodness gracious, these poor boys. I still get on my mother-in-law a little bit about the fact that she and her daughters, like when they would cry, right? Because they're human beings. But when they would cry, they would like go off in their room and cry. And they weren't really emotional outside of like their own personal room. And I keep telling them, I'm like, that's a huge disfavor, because your son, when he married me, was like, why does my wife cry all the time? Like, what is wrong with her? It was really funny. So let your sons and your daughters know like what's going on, so that they know how to be a good brother and sister and maybe a good spouse in the future. All right, sorry, just got here. Starting what book at 8? Oh, the book on puberty. It is Growing Up. I literally just lost it again. Growing God's Way. Growing God's Way for girls, Growing God's Way for boys. Let's see. This is so true. I was not prepared for all the physical changes in my son so early on. Yes, absolutely. It's happening earlier and earlier, and we want to make sure that they're prepared. We don't want that to take them off guard, because that's not fun for anybody. My 9-year-old son is in the crying time. Yes, definitely. Boys definitely cry too. I have some very emotional ones as well. Oh, goodness. I'm glad you mentioned it starts that early. I didn't have that start until 14. I know. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, guys. Thank you, Ashley. Ashley's got it. Yes, Growing Up God's Way for boys or for girls. I really appreciate all my YouTube friends here in the comments helping me keep my life together by giving me the words. All right, guys. Let's see. I want to wrap this up. Oh, I want to answer one more question really fast, okay? And then we're going to wrap this up, because I want to respect your time. But this might sound silly, but in the Sunlight curriculum, how do you document work? I assume there's no workbook, with it being living book-based. I'm very intrigued by Sunlight and other living books. So I wanted to answer this question, not because I think that, there are a lot of people out there who use Sunlight, but I think a lot of people have this question when it comes to how do you document any kind of unit study when there's not like workbook pages. And I just want to tell you guys that just having a list of the books you did and just writing next to it the date that you read it can be great documentation, as well as book reports, or if they did a project on it. Sometimes my kids will reenact the story, or they'll do like, I don't know, whatever. And I'll record that, and I'll keep that as a record too. So just a few ideas there. Okay. I'm going to look at the comments real fast. I'm uneasy about the sex part. I feel like all the info spirals into the next level. And how do you keep it appropriate? Like I said, that book, it is very divided. Okay, so there's like chapters on that part, but it doesn't like interweave into all of it. So you can totally just cover what you're comfortable with and then cover the rest later if you want. But yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It definitely can feel like it. Just joined. Could you show the book? Really want to know more. I wish I could show the book. I'm actually in a hotel. For those of you guys who joined late, I took a little weekend retreat to just pray and work and just kind of clear my head and rest a little. And so I don't have my stuff with me, so I'm sorry. But I will definitely link it down below at the end. A great book to go along with talking to our kids about sex is When a Child is Born. It's a full of amazing photos and stages of development of babies in the womb. Good to know, Leah. Thank you so much. Well, guys, I am going to wrap it up here because we're at the 40-minute mark. But be sure to watch the replay. I am going to jump off right now and going to link all the stuff in the description. So give me just a hot second and I will have that linked for you. If you have additional questions, always keep commenting. I always answer my comments. So I will do the best I can. And it sounds like there's some good video ideas out of all of these. Let's see. Thank you for doing this chat video. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the weekend. I love your channel. So yes, thank you guys so much for joining me this Saturday morning and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.